welcome back to my channel. I'm Carrie with Sims and Dragons, and today we are back with Saya no Uta, or the Song of Saya. Last time I actually learned how to save, so this is exactly where we left off. I'm actually... CG library. Oh! I didn't know we could find that. Cool, cool. Learned something new today about this game. So last time we left off, let's actually go to this and use this. So the first episode, we kind of met a majority of the characters. We know that this is our protagonist. He is seeing this world that, oh, that's not, okay. So basically this is what it looks like. In the game, it's subdued because that's why I have my settings, but apparently the CGI thing isn't, so this is what the world essentially looks like to him without the dimmed and blurred graphics. Okay, learned something new today. These are what his friends actually look like. These two pictures right here. I've kind of forgotten their names, I'm not gonna lie. It's been a while because medical stuff going on. But this is what they actually look like. I mean, they're not actually monsters. He's not actually living in a monster world. But then, so he, talked to them about potentially going on like a ski trip, but he's debating, I think, on not going. So he had some sort of accident some time ago, and they had to do some like a surgery in order to heal him. But it doesn't seem like it's going very well. So, the only person who looks human to him is Saya, who is that girl that we saw, who is this girl right here. But she gives me the heebie-jeebies. There's something about her I don't like. And she's looking for her father, who apparently something happened with him, and he left where he was working because of it. So, anyway, so let's load up the day. Alright, Omi was the first to catch sight of Yo and Fuminori. So Fuminori is the girl with the choker. She was going to be his girlfriend. Or she wanted to be his girlfriend, but he basically has turned her down now because now she absolutely disgusts him. Omi was the other girl in the other picture. Leaving the courtyard. Reluctant to interrupt them, but still unwilling to leave them alone, she and Koji ended up watching the whole thing from the shadows. Koji, again, is the other guy. Throughout the exchange, Omi was clearly itching to jump out and punch Fuminori in the face. Knowing her temper, Koji kept a firm hold on her arm until the end. If he hadn't, she might very well have done it. Fuminori leaves after Yo, his every step seeming to take an act of willpower. Koji sighs heavily into the once more empty courtyard, but a bitter taste in his mouth will not go away. Even Koji cannot forgive Fuminori's treatment of Yo. However... Oh, wait. Fuminori is the dude! Fuminori is our main character. Yo is the girl. The girl with the choker. There we go. However, the first thing that he feels is confusion, not anger. Koji has known Fuminori since long before college. Fuminori was never this cruel before. There is no question now that the accident changed him.
ねえ、Koji。このまま放っておくつもり？
放っておきたくないにしたって、俺たちに何ができる？
覗き見よりマシなことよ。
Her face red with fury.
私、咲坂くんに一言言ってやらなきゃ気が済まないわ。
それで筑波の木が晴れるってもんでもないだろうに。
だったら私のキーだけでも晴らすわよ。
Yo and Omi are best friends, just like Koji and Fuminori. In fact, it was the relationship between Koji and Omi that brought the other two together. Omi's anger is only natural.
私、咲坂くんと二人だけで話してみたいわ。コウジはついてこなくてもいいから。
本気かよ。
その代わり、ヨウのことを見ていてあげて。あの子、多分心底傷ついてるから。泣き終わった後で、誰かの優しさが必要になると思う。
なあ、それって俺とお前の役回りが逆じゃないのか？
私みたいな性格だとね、慰め役は無理。 励ますつもりで余計に傷跡広げちゃうのがオチなのよ。
なるほど、納得いった。
嫌な言い方。
じゃあまあそっちはほどほどにしとけよな。
Ending the conversation before Omi's mood gets worse, Koji heads off to find Yo. So this is what the world looks like, all dimmed and blurred. I feel awful, miserable, but also refreshed. I finally crossed the line. I knew it would come crashing down like this sooner or later, having become unable to feel anything but disgust for other people. There was no way I could hope to maintain the relationships I'd had before the accident. Today's incident will definitely get back to Koji and Omi, and everyone will be convinced I've had a major change of character. Honestly, I don't care anymore. At least I probably won't be committed for this. I just need to avoid acting any stranger than I already have. If this puts a rift between me and the others, good. The thought of all the stress I'll avoid brings a smile to my lips. I'm fed up with them, sticking their noses in my life. It's like they don't care that they make my gut turn just by being near me. Well, it's also the fact that you haven't told them that, so they don't know. I've been terrified of them until now, but today I struck fear into one of them. In that sense, it's something of a relief. But I'm not entirely without remorse for what happened. The person I just demolished with the verbal equivalent of a nuclear bomb used to be my friend Yo. Even if my senses don't believe it, my mind accepts the theory. I don't have any particular grudge against Yo herself, and I don't want to hurt her. In retrospect, perhaps I should have just ignored her outright. Yo was an attractive girl. I certainly didn't think badly of her. To be honest, though, I was annoyed when Koji and Omi tried to stick us together. It felt like they were using us as entertainment, and Yo seemed totally oblivious to the fact that she was dancing to their tune. The cluelessness was irritating. Still, I knew that none of them meant any harm. Back then, I didn't have any reason to hurt others, just to get my way. If having a casual relationship with Yo would keep the circle of friends together, I was willing to make that compromise. Now, however, there's no room in my heart for such forbearance. If merely talking to someone is an ordeal, then how can I be expected to show them kindness? These ruminations have left me exhausted. I want to return to Saya as soon as possible, but thinking about the packed trains and overcrowded downtown streets between here and home saps my spirit. Catching sight of a nearby bench, I sat down and closed my eyes to the horrors of the world. I can't do anything about the stink or the noise, but at least I can calm my nerves enough to rest. When I regained consciousness in the T University Hospital ward, the world was as dark as it is now. I had not yet recovered my sight, even though my eyes and optical nerves were undamaged. It must have been the after effect of the accident. Blindness was a shock, but now I know that my suffering then was nothing. After all, my senses of hearing, touch, taste, and smell were all fine at the time. The real horror began when my sight returned. The one small mercy was that I was able to come to terms with the accident and my neurosurgery while still blind. I panicked when I first saw the nightmarish hospital and the blood-curdling shapes of the doctors and nurses, but I soon guessed the cause. It chills me to think what might have happened if I had recovered my sight alone with my consciousness. Suddenly awaking in what can only be described as hell, I would no doubt have lost my mind instantly. You know, this was supposed to not have me talk so much so my jaw didn't hurt, but whatever. Soon my disorder spread to the senses of touch, taste, and smell. As it turns out, sight exerts tremendous influence over the other four. The taste of my food, the feel of my bedsheets, the fragrance of my get-well flowers all became unbearably foul as my eyes said they should be. Eventually, when the doctor's voices became unrecognizable as human, I decided to kill myself. I didn't believe for a second that I could live in this new world. At least not until I met Saya. Sorry, I'm like bouncing my knee and it's also bouncing my computer, so my webcam might be. One night, while thinking of a painless way to die, I found myself succumbing to sleep. Drifting between the nightmares in my dreams and the nightmares of reality, I didn't notice her enter my room. The next thing I knew, there was a face staring down at me from next to my bed. The face was not covered in pus or slime or earthworm-like feelers. It had smooth white cheeks and round eyes, a lovely little nose, all things I had never expected to see again. The face was that of a girl, undeniably human and positively glowing with beauty. I sighed in admiration, savoring the first peace and joy since retaining my sight. She had not expected such a reaction.
怖くないの？私のこと。
Looking at the clock, I saw that it was exactly 3 in the morning. No time for a young girl to be alone in the hospital. Perhaps she expected me to mistake her for a ghost. But I would not have cared if she had been a ghost. Either way, she was a godsend.
君は誰だい？なぜここに？
私はサヤ。パパのこと探しに来たの。
I assumed that she was the daughter of a late shift doctor or another patient. It was unusual, but not unthinkable for such a girl to be wandering around the hospital.
あなた、怖がらないんじゃつまらない。
See, you know, things like this may give me the heebie-jeebies about her.
あ、ちょっと。
Wait, I cried desperately, trying to keep her from leaving. It was only after she turned around that I realized I hadn't thought of what to say next.
何？
Her beautiful eyes drew me in, healing my soul to its core. Though the white haze clouding my mind, I struggled to form a coherent sentence.
女の子にお願いしていいことじゃないんだが、今、君にしか頼めない。
No longer concerned with propriety, I let the words come as they will.
手を握らせてもらえないだろうか。
Saya looked confused at first, but then she smiled like she just found a new toy. She probably did. Her smile was brighter than my memories of the
変
sun.
な人。そんなこと言い出したの、あなたが初めて。
Ever so carefully, as though catching snowflakes, I placed my palm against hers. I could feel her human warmth and the softness of her delicate fingers. She was there, just beyond the palm of my hand. Thinking back on the joyful tears I shed then, I know that this is the moment I was saved
こ
from
の
my
半月の間に初めて人に触れた。人だと感じられる体に。
は
他の人じゃダメなんだ。僕事故に遭ってその後遺症らしいんだけど、人が人の姿に見えないんだよ。
本当に不思議な人。あなたって面白い。明日の夜もまた来ていい？
あ、そりゃもういいのかい？君はそんなことをして。
大丈夫よ。夜は私のものだから。
Another thing that creeps me out about her. And so our rendezvous began. Saya came to my room every night at 3 a.m., skillfully taking advantage of the duty nurse's shift change. I was astonished to learn that she was living inside the hospital.
これだけ広いと隠れる場所には事欠かないから。
She'd been living in the suburbs with her father, she told me, until one day he suddenly stopped coming home. After she had tired of waiting, Saya had decided one night to sneak into the hospital where he worked, and there she'd lived for over 2 months, searching for his whereabouts all the
学校には行かなくていいのかい？
いいの。勉強は全部パパに教えてもらったから。サヤはとっても頭がいいんだよ。
She was a strange girl. On the one hand, she looked and acted like a child. On the other, she was remarkably self-reliant and at times exhibited a sharp intelligence and deep knowledge that many may have found unsettling. I didn't care. Sai was the only other human in the world gone mad. Her existence meant far more to me than the standards of society.
危なくないのか？見つかりそうになったことは。
全然平気。ここにいれば食べるものにも不自由しないし、パパのうちに一人ぼっちでいるよりもずっと楽しいよ。入院してる患者さんたちのうち、ちょっと精神的に参ってそうな人を事前にチェックしといてね。時々部屋に真夜中に忍び込んで脅かしたりするの。その人が大騒ぎしても、そういう患者さんの言うことはみんな真に受けたりしないから。
I
結
have
局は
words to
悪い
say.
夢ってことで片付けられちゃうし。
I have words about her. Her confession reminded me that the hospital was famous for its ghost stories. Who could have imagined that there was actually a real girl impishly roaming these hallways?
僕も最初はそのつもりで。
ごめんね。怒った？
While her pranks were hardly praiseworthy, I couldn't bring myself to scold her for everything that I
もう
promised
や
to
らない
get
方がい
her.
い。その代わり 夜は僕の話し相手になってくれないか。
さやもその方が楽しい。
Nah. I would hate to be in that kind of room. Look at me. He looks so peeved. With extreme care, I was able to conceal my sensory disorder. It was glaringly obvious that the doctors had no way to cure me, and the fact that I had undergone still experimental procedure made me even more cautious. As a medical student, it was easy for me to imagine how the doctors would react if they discovered that I was exhibiting such unusual side effects. I was not about to become a guinea pig, a mere specimen to be examined with clinical detachment. And so I hid my discomfort and loathing behind a mask of normalcy, convincing the doctors that any signs of stress were merely a result of hospitalization. Saya was my support. Looking forward to her nightly visits gave me the strength to endure my daily torture. Hope can make an enormous difference in a patient's progress. With the aid of my secret nurse, I recovered at a pace that left the doctors stunned. On the last night before my release, I summoned my courage and asked
君は
her,
これからもずっとこの病院に居続けるのかい？
結局パパの手がかりはなかったけど、もう他にいるところもないし、バレそうになるまではいいかなって。
In other words, there was nothing keeping her there.
よかったら僕の家に来ないか？家族はもういないから部屋はいくらでも余ってる。人目を忍ぶような必要もないし、住み心地もそんなに悪くないんじゃないかと。
ずっとふみのりと一緒に暮らすの？
I was too afraid to ask her what she thought of that, so I hastily offered
君の
to
父さんのことは代わりに僕が探してあげる。約束するよ。必ず居場所を見つけてみせる。
難しいと思うよ、それ。多分パパ、何か悪いことをしてこの病院を辞めたんだと思う。だから警察とかは困るの。なるべくこっそりと探さなきゃいけないし。
頑張るよ。どんなことだってやる。僕は。
Unable to control myself, I finally spoke the truth.
さやと離れたくないんだ。
At first, she looked bewildered, but after a few moments of silence, she said,
少しだけ考えさせて。
That night, she left my room earlier than usual. On the day of my release, I managed to smile as I accepted the hideous, foul-smelling celebratory banquet. A bouquet! The flesh beasts calling themselves Koji, Omi, and Yo came to pick me up, though they had come to see me many times during my stay. It never got easier to see my friends change so horribly. My sudden tears of despair drew suspicion, but I managed to explain them away as tears of joy. While we walked to Koji's car, I looked desperately for Saya amid the grotesque scenery. Even as we drove away, I kept watching the hospital fade to the distance, praying for one last glimmer of hope. But Saya never appeared. After Koji and the others dropped me off, I paused a while to regard my surroundings. I had lived my entire life on this block in this house. There was no other place that I could call home. But nothing was as I remembered. As I walked up the path to the front door and took in the yard where I spent my childhood, I could feel those memories being defiled and twisted, festering shapes around me. Inside the house, I found nothing familiar, nothing to offer me comfort and warmth. What I had once called home was now a whole other
僕には
world.
もう帰る場所なんてない。
There was one last saw to make, one last nail to hammer into my coffin. I stepped into the room that had cradled me from childhood. The walls were papered with human entrails, the bed a tangled mess of warm flesh. But none of that mattered. There, curled up on the bed like an abandoned cat, was Saya. As I stood there in shock, she looked at me up in a tiny, weak voice and said,
ここにいてもいいの？
I responded by sweeping her into my arms, embracing her tightly so that she could not escape. Saya did not resist. It's not creepy at all, homeboy. When she arrives at the Sakisaka house, Omi first takes a deep breath to calm herself. Her anger does not vanish entirely, of course, but at least now she can hear herself think. While waiting for a response from the intercom, she looks over a patch of yard that she can see from the outside the gate. Even Omi isn't normally one to complain about other people's housekeeping, but this is going too far. The grass is growing oh my gosh, itchy nose, why? The grass is growing wild and there are piles of dead leaves scattered everywhere. It doesn't just look unattended, it looks uninhabited, like an uninhabited ruin. It's still light out, but every window has its storm shutters tightly sealed. Omi guesses that they've been closed since morning. What kind of life is Fuminori leading? Even if he's living alone, he can't neglect his housework forever. And is it just her imagination, or does something stink like rotten meat? It couldn't be coming from the yard, could it? Interesting. There's still no response, and she presses the buzzer a second time, and a third, and a fourth. Finally, after this has gone on for over 10 minutes, Omi loses her patience and opens the cover of the intercom. As she expected, the power has been disconnected. Perhaps Fuminori has a good reason for shutting off the world, but Omi can only see it as a lack of respect for others. Her anger rekindled, she pushes the gate open and stalks through the yard to the front door. Rude. Given the state of his intercom, she doubts Fuminori will respond to a knock, so Omi decides to just open the door and go in shouting, and if the door is locked, she'll just have to. Surprisingly, the doorknob turns easily in her hand, and the enraged Omi finds herself throwing the door open wider than she intended. Her nostrils are instantly assaulted by a choking stench.
何?
As Omi stands petrified on the threshold, a cowbell hanging on the inside of the door chimes loudly. Oh! Omi can't believe her ears. The voice she just heard could not have been human, yet its intonations were too complex for any animal.
誰かいるの?
So Saya to normal sight is gonna look like the flesh monsters. $10 says that that's the thing. There's no response. Instead, she hears the sound of something soft and wet flopping its way deeper into the house. Finding it difficult to place a meaningful image to the voice, she just heard Omi stares blankly at the empty vestibule. There is nothing there, not even Fuminori's shoes, which can only mean that he's still outside somewhere wearing them. The house should be empty. But then what was that voice just now? Her anger has vanished as if it was never there. Nevertheless, Omi sets foot into the hallway, leaving the door open so the cowbell won't ring. The floor creaks, setting her nerves on edge. Ooh, this is giving me chills. Omi isn't sure why she's acting like a burglar, but something tells her to make as little noise as possible. That would be survival instinct. The potency of the stink inside the house makes the whiff she caught outside pale in comparison. It's sickening, like rotten fish guts. Has food been left to spoil in the kitchen? She hears a bubbling sound up ahead. Stepping gingerly on the cracking floorboards, Omi makes her way to the end of the hallway. She finds rooms to both sides of her, one lit, the other dark. She chooses to look in the lit room. It's the kitchen, lit by what must only be the only window in the house not covered by a storm shutter. The sound she heard was the pot boiling on the stove, and the chopping board next to it by the butcher's knife and some half-diced carrots. Perfectly normal household scene, with the light of the setting sun making everything the color of decomposing fruit. Because that's a sight you want to see. Something is wrong. Who is cooking here? And where did
誰かいないんですか?
As her words echo vainly through the silent house, she begins to feel foolish and defenseless. Get out! Suddenly she feels something cold seeping through her pantyhose. Oh my god! She timidly reaches down to touch her feet. Her fingertips come away covered in viscous olive green slime, like the filthy water from a tank long clogged with algae and dead fish. The whole floor is covered with it. It must be the source of the stench. Only now wishes that she had worn her shoes inside. Manners be damned. I think it's time to leave, sweetheart. When she looks back ruefully the way she came, she realizes that her current position is not visible from the entrance. The kitchen must be where the strange voice came from. The next room is probably the den, as she expected from the closed storm shutters. It's pitch black inside. Omi wants nothing more than to flee this house. That would mean turning her back into the darkness, and that she simply cannot bring herself to. Walk backwards. Moved by some irrational compulsion, Omi sets foot into the den. It's too dark to see anything, and the stink is far worse than before. She slides her hand along the wall, feeling for the light switch, finding it much sooner than she expected. Or not green, whatever colors this is. So many colors. The purple of entrails, the brown of rotten meat, the crimson of fresh blood, the yellow of fat. These colors and more cannot be described, cover every inch of the room in maddening array. The colors all say that what needs to be said about the painter's hatred, malice, and insanity. Oh, that sounded gross. Omi's legs give out from the shock, sending her to the floor. Slime immediately soaks through her jeans. Okay, so she's wearing hose under her jeans. It's a little weird, but okay. It's cold tendrils creeping up her legs, crotch, and... Okay, there we go. Her neck. Oh my god. Her hand flies to her neck where it's greeted by another drop of chilly slime. Above her, something is dripping down on her head. Making perhaps the worst decision of her life, Omi looks up. One time looking up is not a good thing. The predator clinging to the ceiling, poised to leap on its prey. She sees it in every detail. See? Oh. Her mouth and nose are sealed before she can scream, and her belly is torn open as something enters to feast on her innards. By the time she feels any of this, Omi has already gone mad. Oh my god. Alright. I'm actually going to end it here because I only have about a couple minutes left of my timer before I need to stop. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Well, we've had our first death, or at least insanity. I'm not sure what that would be. I knew Saya was bad news. The Sayed. Part 2. Already knew she was bad news. I have no idea how long this game is. But yeah, so that's saving. See, I know how to save now. But yeah, so like I said, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Don't forget to come back next time. Find out what happens. Does Fuminori find Omi? How does Saya cook Omi for Fuminori? Oof, creepy thoughts. Anyway, so I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.